Greetings and salutations, ladies and gentlemen. Jeffrey Wilson from the Conspiracy Farm. So check this out. As most people know, a couple weeks ago, Pat Miletich was on the Joe Rogan podcast. And then the next day, he went on Sam Tripoli's show, the Tinfoil Hat podcast. It was Sam, Pat, ultra runner Dave Clark, who we also had on the show recently, and Eddie Bravo. And in my opinion, and a lot of people's opinion, things started really getting good towards the end. So what we're going to do is have part 2 next week, April 16th, Monday. Pat, myself, the Conspiracy Farm teams up with Tinfoil Hat and also the great Eddie Bravo to basically have part 2 of that conversation, because like I said, it really started getting good towards the end. So we're going to do it one more again. And so next week, Monday, April 16th, we're going to have part 2. So enjoy this little slice of business here, part 1, and stay tuned. There will be more.
Today's episode is brought to you by Spotify. Hey, did you know that Tinfoil Hat is now available on Spotify? Spotify is making it easy for you to stream this podcast and many others like it, like Conspiracy Farm or Eddie Bravo's podcast on your mobile device, desktop, and smart speaker. Open the app on your mobile or desktop, click the browse channel, and then click on the podcast section. Take me and other podcasts like, We Are Superman with you, thanks to Spotify. Please enjoy today's show. Check us out on all of our social media platforms. On Twitter at Tinfoil Hat Cast, reddit.com/r/Tinfoil Hat Show.
On Instagram at Tinfoil Hat Pod.
For allcomedyt-shirts.com.
Email us at tinfoilhatpod@gmail.com.
Welcome to Tinfoil Hat. We go deep, homeboy. Aaron, open your mind. Drink from the fountain of knowledge. There's lizard people everywhere. That's some interdimensional shit. Wake up, Aaron. You just blew my mind.
Hey, and welcome to another fun episode of Tinfoil Hat. This is the Royal Rumble, I'll call it. It's a great show. We got some wonderful people on, guys. This Sunday night, I will be shooting my special live at the Viper Room 2 show, 7:30 and 9:30. The shows are almost packed out, so if you want to go, hit up Sam Tripoli Live at Gmail. And then I'm very excited to announce... can we go back to the thing?
Sure.
2 huge shows are coming with one of our guests. I'm very excited to announce that on June 1st, you will be able to go to Cobb's in San Francisco. Friday, June 1st at 8 p.m. is Cobb's for Tinfoil Hat Comedy Night. Eddie Bravo, Sam Tripoli, Ryan Davis should be up there, and we're going to see whatever kind of conspiracy theories we can get up to do some comedy. So just go to Ticketmaster, put in Tinfoil Hat Comedy, and then the following night, Sacramento, Sacktown, we are coming. All right, we are going to be also live at the Punchline in Sacramento. Again, the same lineup. We're very excited for this. So it's about to go live. Those links are about to go live. Grab your tickets now. Now, if you're anywhere in the area, please grab tickets, because if you grab tickets and we sell it out, we will be able to tour all over the country, and we're very thankful to Live Nation for being a part of that. So that's it. And then the following Tuesday is the next Comedy Chaos. Joe Rogan, Whitney Cummings, Anthony Jeselnik, Brian Callen, myself, and we'll see who else pops in. We got a packed house here today. Very excited. Joining us, as always, you're like a podcast regular now.
Yeah.
My good friend, and I'm very excited. You put the tour together, and it's really kicking a lot of ass. Eddie Bravo is going to be joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, and he was just on Joe Rogan's MMA podcast, and I want to talk about that whole thing. He's got a great podcast that he does with Jeffrey Wilson called Conspiracy Farm.
Yeah, the Conspiracy Farm.
The Conspiracy Farm.
Yep.
Pat Miletich, everybody.
Hey-o,
Glad to be here, man.
And then finally joining us in the back, the quiet man. He's got a radio show in Denver and a really sweet podcast called We Are Superman, David Clark.
Well, thanks for quiet, man. I don't think that's ever been attached to me.
Well, I'm
before,
sure you're about to go off. And join me, as always, is my co-host with the most, my good friend Ryan Davis.
Much love, no hate.
Yes.
Dude, your hair is sick.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's a wig. You can have it if you want.
Number one comment in the studio, first right out the gate. how everybody loves his hair.
What shampoo do you use?
We just get a little homoerotic with that. You can't help it, man. It just brings out that. Guys, today's topic is Bigfoot psychic? Let's go through this only kidding real quick. Thanks for coming on, guys. Pat, good job on the podcast yesterday with Rogan. I liked how you guys were talking about M&A, and then you got the spirit, kind of like bring it into your world and the conspiracy farm and all that stuff.
Joe's the kind of guy. He's obviously very bright, very quick-witted guy who can stay in a conversation. And David and I were talking about it. He can stay within a conversation and know what he's talking about in a myriad of subjects. So he's an amazing guy to talk to.
Yeah, and it's a fun conversation, and he's very open-minded to a lot of stuff, not necessarily into it, but he likes to talk about it, and he allows people like us, and Eddie goes on a lot to be able to discuss a lot of that stuff, and even though he's not into it, I think it helps put it out there, and I think that's great. So today, I know you wanted to get into a little flat earth, and we're going to get into that. I would like to do that at the end of the show.
Yeah, I just wanted to explain to me, because I've never actually delved into that subject.
And I think that's great, because, the whole thing with us in this show is that we kind of, we're open-minded to anything.
Should be.
And we'll hear anything.
Yeah.
And we'll probably take a pounding on it after, not for this thing, but stuff we've done before.
Right.
Like we had this woman named Trish the Dish on last week, and she was telling us how she didn't believe actual planes flew into the buildings on 9/11, but holograms with, what's it called?
Project Bluebeam.
Bluebeam.
Right. Well, and Trish has been on our podcast, and she makes a lot of legitimate points on a lot of other subjects. She's done a lot of research, but there's places where I just won't go down rabbit holes.
And I get that too, because we were supposed to do a 5G episode with her, and we kind of started doing a lot of that. I kind of did some research, and I'm like, I don't know if I really want to get into this. Not that it's not real, but I don't know if I want to just know about it, because it's some really dark shit.
Yeah.
But what I want to get into with you guys, because I think we're all kind of into this, I think as much as we have our own specific things that we really enjoy, that we're all kind of into this geopolitics, money corrupts, absolute power absolutely corrupts, and all that stuff right there. You kind of got into the whole thing with him, with Benghazi and ISIS and all that, but I want to start with, what are your guys' opinion on Trump in terms of, is he a white hat? Is he a black hat? Is this like the Bill Clinton kind of you go through, we have investigation after investigation after investigation, but all the time deregulating this, deregulating that, deregulating that, raising the defense spending and budgets over and over again, which is they're coming after me, but I really am doing the bidding of the masses of mankind. What are your guys' thoughts on that whole thing?
Eddie, you want to start?
You can start.
Okay. I would say this. I am a Ron and Rand Paul guy. I've never made any qualms about that. I gave speeches for Rand Paul when he came to Iowa to introduce him at universities, things like that. And I'm a big believer in the Pauls and their, they stand by the Constitution and protecting the individual's rights. And as far as Trump goes, I wasn't sure at all about who he was. I think we're in deep trouble with this guy. I think he's a plant. I think he's a liberal. I think, because his past, his track record
he was
showed
a Democrat at one point.
Absolutely. So I wasn't sure about the whole thing. But the more the mainstream media goes after him, the more the establishment on both sides of the aisle attacks him, the more I'm convinced that he's actually the right guy for the job. And now I don't agree with everything he does by any means, but a lot of the stuff he's doing, just his Twitter account is keeping the First Amendment alive.
Yeah.
And people should be thankful for that. And we were just talking about it. The state of Denver just made it illegal to say the word retard. Okay, you can't do that. That's infringement of the First Amendment. Now,
that is 100%
no matter how offensive that is, you can't tell somebody they can't say that.
And I can't help but feeling like I've lost a little bit of my identity because of that. 'Cause how are people gonna? How are they going to identify me now?
Yeah, Dave the retard, right?
That's right. That's right. That's my thing. I needed that.
Yeah.
So we want people to play this part of the podcast where we say the word retard over and over on giant speakers in Denver. And just let them know that we're going to go ahead and say it.
And the real irony being that Boulder is the most retarded place on earth. I mean,
do you think that is good? Do you think that that's like a heat check in the sense of let's just ban this word that we think most people could get behind? And by the way, I love that the word retard is banned, but the N word isn't. Like they're like, let's not give away that. But the fact that the R word, the retard, has been. Do you think it's like a heat check to see
It's
how
a litmus
people
test.
will react to censorship?
What will the guinea pigs take, right?
Yeah.
I think all of politics today are just trolling. Like, we're being trolled. Trump's trolling us. Colorado's trolling us. They just want to see how we're going to react.
Well, it's like weed is interesting because they gave you kind of weed and then you see what they're taking. I know in like Oregon, something is like, if you get a weed card, you can't carry a gun, which is, to me, it's like, why is that in any way acceptable as a rule? I mean, like, that is a violation of your Second Amendment, right?
Well, and they're sorry.
And
go
you
ahead.
know that like stoners are going to forget their gun at home anyways. They're going to go look at a holster and it's just going to be like their pipe. They'll be like, oh man.
But this process has worked forever, right? Like, if you really want to fuck someone, you got to get them a little bit mellowed first, right? You got to slip them a little something, get them relaxed, and then you can do whatever you want to them. So that's what they're doing to us in Colorado.
They're basically like slowly roofing you guys
That's it.
through legislation.
That's it.
Is that what you're saying?
That's it.
I can dig that. I find that very interesting. Eddie, do you have any thoughts on this?
Well, isn't Oregon recreational?
Well, I think it is.
So how would you? Why would you need to apply for a medical card?
I just read something that there's something where it's like if you get a card, maybe you got to have a card to smoke recreation. I don't know. It's very interesting.
Once you're registered.
In California, you don't. Anybody
Okay.
could buy weed now. You just got to be 21.
Well, this is where the slippery slope starts to happen on, you think of all the veterans. I've met veterans, probably thousands by now, who talk about the VA and all they do with those guys for PTSD. And it's not across the board. I'm not saying everybody in the VA is bad, but I'm just saying that a lot of the doctors are like, here's some Prozac, here's some sleeping pills, here's this, here's that. Now we know you're crazy, you're registered as crazy, and eventually they're going to take his guns too, right?
Yeah.
That's just the way this slippery slope is going to work.
Yeah, and then it becomes who decides who's crazy.
Exactly. That's where
the
it's
big
scary,
thing.
right?
You see that a lot with when it comes to jokes and even the words like retard and stuff like that, is like who decides what's the bad words? My friend Sarah Tiana did a joke on Fox Sports about there was a Latino NASCAR driver or Indy driver, and she goes, he's just happy that he has car insurance, which is a classic Mexicans don't have car insurance joke. And some people's heads exploded over that's racist. And I'm just like, it's not. I've heard that joke 1,000 times in Latino comedy nights.
Yeah.
They laugh. If there's anyone who could laugh at themselves, is the Latinos. They could totally laugh at themselves. But the notion that it's going to be the slippery slope, and then all of a sudden, it's like we're just everybody's hunting Mexicans because of this whole thing. But this guy goes, well, you just shouldn't be a dick. And I go, well, the question is, who decides what's a dick?
Yeah.
And who's a dick?
Right.
And everybody loves a witch hunt until you're the witch, and you just never know when you're the witch.
It's where I want to be. I want to move to Australia because there's no politically correct there at all.
Oh yeah, you go all over.
You can do and say anything you literally want to. You can get in a fist fight in a bar. Somebody gets hurt. You can't sue the other guy because you got in a fight with them. That's the way it is. That's lick your wounds, go home. You got your nose broke. That's the way it is. And Michael Chavello, I did broadcasting with him for 7 years. He said stuff on air that no American could get away with. I would have been fired in a heartbeat. His head is pissing blood, Pat. Crazy stuff like that. Racial stuff, he would say, right?
Really?
He went off on Fallon Fox in the open. It was the whole, she used to be a he and now it's she. I would have been fired in a heartbeat for that. And everybody else went, he's Australian. Who cares, right?
I totally agree with that. That is very interesting. I found that when I travel, like even to Canada is very interesting. I find the most conservative Canadian is like a liberal American.
Oh yeah, they've lost their minds up there.
100%. But they do have some censorship issues going right now.
People kind.
Yeah, which is very, very interesting. So we're just living in this real interesting place because what we've seen with Trump right now, and you can say whatever you want about Trump, and I am not a Trump guy. Right. I know some people want to think I am not.
Deep down inside you are. So.
Well, I've talked about this. I don't trust anybody in that position. I think if you put Santa Claus in as president within 2 weeks, he'll be a war criminal. It's just.
But he couldn't run for his third term, so that didn't work.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But what we're seeing with Trump is like I don't care what you say. The basically the destroying of mainstream media. We've seen the FBI. I don't know how many guys at the FBI have stepped down now or been fired, and now like Facebook is just. I mean, we are seeing pretty soon Facebook's just going to be a nice place to talk to your mom because that's the only people on it, elderly women at this point. Because it's very interesting that elderly women are really scared of hacking, but they're not afraid of data breaching, data mining, which is kind of what the drug war is. Like people hate street drugs, but they love pharmaceuticals, which is kind of like you hate the guy on the corner doing it.
It's legal for them to sell it, but not that guy.
But you're okay with the dude in the suit doing it, which is the same thing. You hate hacking, says some dude might steal, but you don't mind a bunch of suits just ripping all this information off and using it to manipulate your mind.
Along with aiding presidential candidates winning an election, right?
Well,
the algorithms and all the other crap they've been doing, deliberately shutting down conservative voices on Twitter and on Facebook. You know, that's bad stuff. You can't do that. That is taking away First Amendment rights, correct?
I completely.
That is steering the masses. It's steering the masses.
Well, the problem is that they're private entities, and then they're like, well, that doesn't apply. The Second Amendment doesn't apply to a private entity. They're like, it's like a bar. It's like the bar has a right to kick you out if you're yelling at people all the time or you're saying something. A bar can kick you out, and that's their argument. But the problem is that they're only censoring one side of the discussion. And like, you know, we have a friend named Ari Shafir. Ari was kicked off by doing a joke to Bert Kreischer that because Bert stole his records and he was smashing them on, and he said, I'm gonna break in the house and kill all your family, and which was a complete and utter joke.
Right.
And Twitter went nuts, and then people would put up these pictures of like liberals wishing violence on the conservative side, particularly after the Parkland shooting, where anybody questioned what was really going on, and they would say, "Oh, I hope he gets shot, killed, murdered," and nothing would happen to them.
Well, but when you go back to Facebook and Twitter, and probably all the other platforms besides maybe Gab, unless they're the alternative for capturing the rest of us. You look at it and go, anybody with one eye and half a brain understands that just the one app on there where people were doing the switch from a man to a woman or a woman to man and what they'd look like. Dude, it's a facial recognition CIA tool.
Without a doubt,
you can't even now disguise yourself as a woman, they'll find you. Right? I go, you have to have some common sense. And on top of that, you're all transgenders. You're all fucking transgenders.
Yeah.
And do what you want. I don't care as far as real life transgender. Do what you want. I don't even care.
Yeah, I mean,
but all this stuff is. Do you think the people that started Facebook and Twitter weren't hired by the CIA to write those programs and put that shit together? I mean, seriously.
Oh yeah, that they weren't from the intelligence community. Very good coders, excellent at what they do. Of course, they go hand in hand because at those conventions every year, the CIA comes and recruits, and vice versa.
Absolutely,
it's known. It's velvet glove.
Yeah,
without a doubt. And the problem is what you're going to find out is not only were they a part of it, that most likely they were engineered specifically for that.
Oh, they were.
And that's why they'll never change the way they operate because you're like, well, you gotta get back to what you were social media. No, they were never that, and that's what my opinion of what television is. Like, why has MTV been doing this one branding of an entertainment when nobody's been watching it? If it was really about ratings and getting people to watch, they would have changed their operation the way they operated a long time ago. But it's not about that.
Right.
It's about it's like, and I've had this talk on your show about how I think a lot of television is bullshit, and yes, ratings matter to a point to keep the facade up, but it's like if ratings really mattered, MTV would change, but they're not going to change because the people who own the people at the top, I'm not talking Disney, I'm talking the people who own Disney, right?
Right.
They own ABC, let's say, right? They also own big chunks.
It's a massive umbrella.
And it's just a shell game.
Right.
Because if it really mattered, they would change the way they're operated. And that's what we're going to see about Facebook and Twitter and all this other stuff. If business really mattered to you, if your whole thing was trying to get as many people as possible, you're going to change your operation.
Right.
But let's see if they do it.
Well, when you see the collapse, here's the thing that I will say. That no matter whether you're a fan of Trump or not, I will say this. It's a godsend that he was elected for this reason. Do you think if Clinton was elected that any of the corruption would be exposed in government? None of it. None of it would be exposed. Would media people be brought down for sexual harassment and rape? Would people in Hollywood be being brought down for pedophilia and all the other crazy shit that's gone on? Would people in government who have been predators be brought down? None of it would be happening if it weren't for Trump being elected. And I'm telling you, it's, Craig Sawman Sawyer, former SEAL Team 6 member.
Yeah.
He's got the best intel guys in the world working for him. Imagine having SEAL Team 6 guys with the best intel guys in the world, and you're a pedophile and they're hunting you.
Yeah.
He's unraveling massive networks of pedophiles all over the country and nabbing these people up left and right, and it's badass. Having that guy on our show, it's insane. The stuff that guy's doing.
Have you seen the documentary Conspiracy of Silence?
No.
Watch that.
Yeah.
It goes deep into the child trafficking network in the United States. It leads to Washington, D.C.
Right, and people don't realize that the organ trafficking, all these rat lines of child sex trafficking, of organ trafficking, of weapons, of drugs, all this stuff. Look, organ trafficking is now making more money than weapons trafficking. That tells you your body, your lung is worth $250,000, your other lung's worth $250,000, your liver's worth $250,000, your kidneys are worth that. You're worth more than $1 million to me. So if I can kidnap you, carve the shit out of you, and I know where to get that stuff to, I make more than $1 million just for your body.
Oh my!
Right?
It's a good deal.
So that's the stuff that's going on. No, but when we had
Extra for hair.
So why don't we start?
Well, have you guys heard of Jimmy Savile?
Yeah.
Jimmy Savile is a celebrity. He's dead now. He died in his 80s in 2011. But he's a super celebrity in the UK. He was a DJ.
BBC guy, right?
BBC guy. He was the host for Top of the Pops since the 60s, right? He's super tight with the royal family.
Oh, he was
Super
knighted,
tight.
dude. He
Yeah,
was knighted.
Super tight with the prince, all the princes, the queen, super tight with the prime ministers. He had Christmas dinner with Margaret Thatcher multiple times, Tony Blair, super tight with everybody. He's just this aging DJ, and he's super tight with the royal family.
And he raped hundreds of children.
Yeah,
right?
so he died.
Not just children, senior citizens as well. Like that guy was literally over the spectrum of just perversion.
Yeah, what he would do is he was a as far as from a pedophile point of view, he was a genius because all he would do is use his fame to raise money for hospitals and psychiatric hospitals, and he loved insane asylums. He'd go in there and he'd have a job there. They would say, hey, okay, you're going to be the board of directors or whatever,
Yeah.
and he would rape as many girls as he can get his hands on, and. While he was alive, he was constantly, there was all these allegations, but they would always hit a brick wall and they would never.
buried.
Yeah, because he would just threaten him. He goes, what are you going to do? I'm friends with the queen. I'll fucking bury you. What are you going to do?
Right,
And,
right.
and so they could never bust him. He finally dies in 2011. Then all these people, 400 people come out. And who knows how much how many there are total. 400 people came out and accused him of rape.
Yeah.
Probably
And
10
rape.
times that.
So the mystery was, why is everybody covering for him? Why didn't he get prosecuted? Why? He's got it, and you're like, man, he's got all these friends in high places, but why? There's a documentary on YouTube called Jimmy Savile, The Ninth Circle.
I've seen that.
I sent it to you.
Yeah.
The Ninth Circle. It explains why. It explains why everyone covered for him.
everybody's
Because it
in
turns
on
out, well, yeah, everyone's in on it, but how are they in on it? The Ninth Circle explains, this is what they're saying, I don't know if it's true, that he was the supplier of children to
the elites.
To the elite. That's what he was. That's why he was so tight.
Yeah.
He had access to all the kids. He'd be at all these, he'd raise millions of dollars for orphanages and hospitals, and it was all a scam to bring in new recruits. And the sick thing, Ninth Circle talks about this British politician named Edward Heath. Apparently, he's just the most evil motherfucker out there. Apparently, according to this documentary, Savile would bring him 10 to 15 boys because he was gay.
Yeah.
Not that anything's wrong with gay people. I love gay people. Just don't suck my dick. Anyways, stay away from my dick. But anyways,
Dude, that's
But
retarded.
anyways, he would take, according to this documentary, famous politicians can't have witnesses. So he would take them on his yacht. Edward Heath would take them on his yacht, and they'd go like to Jersey Island, which is owned by the Queen. Jersey Island, owned by the Queen, and they would take these rides, and they would joke and say these rides were called them death rides. You know why? Because that's the last ride the kids would take. They butchered them. Damn. They found so many bodies on Jersey Island. It's a crazy scandal.
Oh, yeah, dude.
It's a crazy scandal in the UK, and the media's burying it. They're still burying it.
Oh, absolutely.
The Queen was just found guilty of the disappearance of 10 children. She was just found guilty in a world court. And they don't know what's going to... The guy who actually whistleblowed on her, he was like forced into a psych ward. They threw drugs in him and they forced him into a psych ward.
Yeah.
She was just found guilty of 10 children disappearing. Yeah. It is so deep. You were kind of bringing up something earlier about DynCorp, right?
Yeah, you guys ever heard of DynCorp?
Oh, we know all about it. We've talked about it on my podcast. DynCorp was found guilty of child sex trafficking and organ trafficking.
Do you know that
they still operate?
Do you know that in the United States, every year 800,000 to 1 million kids go missing, and in the UK, it's lower. It's 175,000.
I don't know the exact numbers, but I know that in the UK, all of the children sex trafficking, the grooming of children, all that sort of stuff by these Islamic gangs and the elites in government who are not Islamic, it's on such a massive scale that they literally don't know how to unravel it because everyone in power is part of it, and that's why you hear, look, if you don't support Trump based just simply on, he's talking about where are all the kids? Where are all the children? What are they doing to these children? And he said pure evil, death sentence, fast court hearings and death sentence.
Yeah, you know, based on those numbers, if those numbers are true, who the fuck knows if they are? But based on those numbers, your kids are at least, I'm being conservative, at least 20,000 times more likely to be kidnapped than to be shot at a school.
So why don't we have 100?
Think about that. At least it's probably 50,000. I'm just saying 20,000.
Yeah, they're saying
you know
here
what I mean?
that 2,000, roughly 2,000 per day go missing in the United States.
2,000?
So why aren't we hearing from 2,000 parents every day?
They shut it down. They shut it down.
It's at the highest levels.
Yeah,
man.
the Conspiracy of Silence was a documentary done on child sex trafficking in the United States, which is the center is in Omaha, Nebraska, Boys Town. It's the biggest orphanage ever. That's the hub.
Yeah.
That's where they get all the kids. So orphans are the easiest ones to get. They don't have any parents. No one's going to go looking for them. You just give them some drugs and some money, and they just become prostitutes. But the elite, the crazy ones, love fresh kids. That they love kidnapping kids and getting the fresh ones. Like the elite, like sometimes he's 5, he's too old.
Oh, we had a guy John
Bucciaroni.
Yeah, he was actually in that whole thing in the 80s, correct? And I mean, he knew that whole Black Larry from the Franklin scandal that was really big on the Republican side. You know, I've gone on shows. We've had people debate this on the show, friends of ours who we love that just wanted to have a fun discussion. And, you know, I mean, when you look at the highest levels of Anglo-Saxon white Christian countries, and this isn't about Christian because I believe that Jews, Muslims, Christians, they all use that. Luciferians use those as a mask to walk amongst us because they can't really be like, yeah, dude, I'm into the devil worshiping and doing bad things to kids, or else we would all go nuts. So they gotta be like, I'm a Jew, I'm a Muslim, I'm all that, I'm a Christian, you know. So at the highest levels of all those things, whether it's like the United States, UK, Australia, there is like a giant pedophile scandal. Somewhere
it's worldwide.
And that Conspiracy of Silence documentary that you could watch on YouTube, that was about to go on the BBC, and they shut it down. Nobody aired it, and it explained exactly who was involved in the headquarters of child sex trafficking in this country. And they shut it down. They shut it down. They won't play it.
Dr. Phil did something on it, and they shut down. He lost his shows in like Iceland, and I think Iceland just had a giant problem with it, where they basically think they might have to just literally kickstart the government from zero because it's at the highest levels of everything, and that's like a what? I don't know how many people in Iceland. I don't think it's that many. I want to say like 3 million.
Imagine if a lot of it's going to be exposed. So, and I'll give you this explanation. When you talk about the apocalypse doesn't mean the end of the world. That's not the apocalypse. Excuse me. Apocalypse comes from the Greek word apocalypsis. And the definition of apocalypsis is the uncovering or bringing things from the dark into the light.
The unveil.
And I feel that that's what we're going through right now. All these people are being exposed. I think it will continue. I think the snowball is going to grow. And if the general mainstream, the normal person out there who's brainwashed by, Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, all this other garbage that's out there, painting a picture and trying to divide us and do all this other shit, if everybody, when this stuff all happens, people's brains are going to explode. And I can tell you, imagine the massive corruption and the vile feeling that these people will be, I think, executed. I think there's going to be executions on a mass scale because of these uncoverings. Because what do you do with someone who does satanic rituals with children, rapes them, and kills them?
Right.
You fucking shoot them.
Yeah.
That is the end of the story.
Yeah.
You don't spend money on them.
The problem is it's so huge. Like, have you heard of the Hampstead conspiracy?
Yeah.
The Hampstead conspiracy. It's in the UK and it's related to the Savile conspiracy. It's there was these two kids. They're about 8 years old. And they're a brother and a sister. They have a mom, and the mom has a boyfriend. The boyfriend's name is Abraham. The boyfriend knew and then they see the biological father once every other weekend, according to the courts. That's
Right. You sent me this video.
So the Abraham, the mother's boyfriend, knows there's something wrong with these kids. These kids are fucking nuts. They're masturbating with each other. They have these insane tantrums. Something's going on. The mother doesn't know what's going on, right? So the Abraham's trying to he figures something's up with the father. The father's fucking with them, right? So, but he can't crack them. So he decides, you know what? Maybe they'll open up if I take them on vacation. So they go on vacation to Morocco, and I think they're on like a cruise ship in Morocco. So they're away from the UK, and it works. The kids come clean, and he's got it on video. You can watch this on YouTube.
Right.
The kids, both of them, are going, yes, everybody at school is fucking us. All the teachers, they're all fucking us. Go, what teachers? They're naming all the teachers, and they're saying they see their dad every day at school. The dad shows up to school. Right.
Jesus
and
Christ.
The kids are saying the dad fucks them. All the teachers fuck them. All the teachers have tattoos of Baphomet like on their genitals. They're getting into details about what's going on. The whole school is involved.
Right.
And they're bringing outside people. On Wednesdays, that's the big day. That's when they have the most of the sex. These little kids are saying this on vacation. So they get back to the UK. They go back to the UK, and then they go to the cops, and they got them on tape. You can watch this on YouTube. They break down exactly what's going on. They take them to church. There's all these secret rooms in church. Everybody at church is fucking the kids. So then there's zero investigation, and then there's a retraction from the kids. They get the kids back at the police station. The kids say, yeah, Abraham, he made us lie. Abraham made us lie. So you could tell the retraction isn't real.
Oh, yeah.
When you look at the confession, they're going into detail, but there's zero detail when it comes to Abraham forcing them to lie about their father.
It's horrifying, dude. And most people,
and then the media puts out this headline: police on manhunt. They're going after
Abraham.
No, they're going after the mother. Police on manhunt after mother who tortured children into lying about their father.
Oh my God.
So, but the thing is, they never went after. There was no manhunt. You know why there was no manhunt? What are they going to capture her, put her in court, and then they're going to cross-examine the kids? So they stayed away from it. The media is saying they're going after the mom for torturing the kids into
all
lying.
in on it, dude.
Meanwhile, the mother's trying to. They took her kids. The mother's campaigning to get her kids back. She's done all these shows. She's doing all these interviews, and she's like, "They're not arresting me. They're not coming after me because they know that there'll be cross-examination.
It'll come out in court. It'll all come out in court.
They just bury that shit and cover it. And then the father, it turns out, Hampstead is like the Beverly Hills of London. So this is super wealthy. This is like high-level schools, and then the father is on the mainstream media crying, saying, "I can't believe my kids think I'm a Satanist." He's an actor. He's
great
an actor. He's an actor.
I believe that. I was there.
Yeah, it was
You know,
good.
so what is that? You sit back and think about that. All the cover up with Jimmy Savile.
Yeah.
And then that Hampstead cover up with these two kids. They said everything.
Right.
How deep does it go? How deep?
In 2017
it's crazy
alone,
deep.
the mainstream media in 2017, they didn't report on this, but over 1,600 arrests of pedophiles in just the United States.
Oh,
Do you
yeah.
think this is the draining of the swamp?
It's part of it. It's part of it. And, you've got to understand that this goes, the corruption. And, when Trump says, I'm going after MS-13, the reason he's going after MS-13 is because MS-13 was used to guard the rat lines. They were used for hits. There was a lot of stuff going
Gangs
on.
for Security, it's called?
Basically. And the rat lines, like I said, the rat lines of, I talked a little bit about it yesterday, and I've talked about it on my podcast, but, you talk just about the weapons trafficking into the Middle East, into hot spots around the world. It's, Dilyana Gatancheva, who's the Bulgarian journalist who got fired for exposing. They took cameras with ISIS. ISIS said, "Yeah, we'll show you our weapons cache."
Yeah.
It was all Bulgarian, a company named Arsenal Weapons Manufacturing. The stamps all over the boxes, right? So this is where we have to cross-reference and check. When I'm going to go after something, I'm going to check with a couple different people that know what they're talking about, intel people that I'm friends with. I'm going to check on documentation, this and that. Bulgarian Anonymous exposed hundreds of documents of manifests of flights from Silkway Airlines, that was an Azerbaijani company that still exists. All the flights out of Bulgaria into hotspots, into Libya, into Turkey, into the Ukraine, into different places around the world, delivering these weapons of white phosphorus weapons, of depleted uranium artillery rounds, of small arms, of all. I mean, I'm talking massive shipments of weapons, and the stuff is being fed directly to ISIS, al-Nusra, al-Shabaab, all these different terrorist organizations. How do you think, and that's why I say, how do you think a 50,000-man extremist army appears out of nowhere? When years and years ago, guys that were special forces operators who were retired were in Jordan in a massive training facility training people who were so-called freedom fighters and future rebels and all this other shit. They're extremists. They're hired to go and destroy a government. Libya gets brought down. Yemen's being brought down. We're still fucking assisting in that, which I think one lawmaker tried to get a bill to go through to stop the funding of all of that shit. But one of my intel guys, who I can tell you, a very high intel guy, his business partners are former master chiefs of intel in the United States. There's only been, 6 of those guys. But I can tell you this, that when I asked him, I said years ago, are we funding ISIS? Yes, and NATO's the go-between. And also, did Trump put a stop to those programs of funding those guys when he got into office? He said that was one of the first things he did, was he stopped the funding of ISIS. And that's why ISIS is being destroyed and falling apart. Nobody's being paid anymore, and they're not getting fresh bullets.
Well,
right?
they did complain about that, and they were also talking about how that was a big part of Benghazi. Now, I heard you guys talk about that on Joe Rogan's. Like, what I've noticed is it's United States, Israel, Saudi Arabia, we all play ball together. And we can't all go into other war. We can't go into some countries politically. It will cost us too much. So the other guy goes in for us. And sometimes none of us can do it, so we make somebody like ISIS. Now,
it's all proxy wars, right? Proxy wars and things like that. It's like, Eric Prince's Blackwater was guarding the construction of a pipeline out of the Caspian Sea into Europe because we couldn't have U.S. forces guarding that pipeline because it's between Iran and Russia.
Right.
You just can't do it, right? So let's have Blackwater go in and do it. It's all a lot of dirty money-making, really scary shit going
If you look at ISIS, they're only in countries that we have problems with.
Right.
They're not in any country that we're allies with.
And how about the report that came out like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago? We talked about this on JRE, that our government, the Pentagon, spent $500 million to a UK PR company to make fake ISIS videos.
Yeah.
They paid them $500 million to make fake
and that's what
ISIS
I said.
videos. So when you hear that, is it smart or dumb to not trust any of that shit.
Yeah.
You're like, it's smart not to trust. Or is it smart to trust shit and say, you know what? They had a good reason. The reason was
propaganda.
Yeah, we make these fake ISIS videos, we put them on CDs and scatter them across the Middle East, and whoever views them, now we have a tracking device on them, and then we get to arrest ISIS. Like, people fucking believe that.
It goes even
people
deeper.
believe that.
It goes deeper,
That's
Eddie.
That's scarier than any conspiracy theory. That what people believe. That's scarier.
Well, and that's where here's
scarier than the conspiracy theories.
Right. Here's how I break it down.
It's like everyone, and these are smart people to believe that. Smart people buy into that.
Absolutely.
So it's not like, oh, they're idiots for believe. They're not idiots. Smart people believe that. It can't be idiocy. It has to be a form of mass hypnosis, and I'm not joking. Smart people are hypnotized. They're hypnotized. If you see Tower 7, you see the video and it goes down, and you think Tower 7 went down because of fires, you're not an idiot. You're not a moron. You could be very smart. You are hypnotized.
That's
for real.
Book smart and street smart.
There's certain things that I don't necessarily subscribe to or bite on or things like that. But I would say this is the way I relate it. And you're a comedian and you've been on stage a million times and you've been in comedy clubs when you've seen a hypnotist get on stage and do funny shit.
Yeah.
He'll hypnotize a bunch of people. I went years ago with a girlfriend, long before I was married, and the comedian brought volunteers on stage, set them all in chairs, and then said, and anybody in the crowd that wants to try and get hypnotized, go ahead and do it. Don't touch them. If they fall asleep, just point to them. I'll come and get them, bring them on stage, right? So he gets all these people hypnotized. There's 25 people on stage. There's a Hell's Angel giving birth to a baby. There's all kinds of crazy shit and pandemonium going on. That's when people look at the TV, they immediately look at a TV broadcast, a news broadcast, and say to themselves, that's my authority. That's the authority figure who's telling me the truth, and people believe it. They bite on it. And it's mass hypnosis. That's how it happens, right? And I just look at people and go, if you would take the time to research really what's going on, you'll learn that I can't even have the news on in my house.
Yeah, my girlfriend shut it down. She runs to the television, turns it off when I'm coming in. It's like me when you're watching porn and your girlfriend comes home. You're like, turn that, just checking on the stocks, and you turn it off, right? And then you gotta explain why your pants are around your ankles, looking at the stocks. But that's how she is. She runs, she grabs the remote, and she changes it. And she's not a bad person. She's actually quite intelligent. But like, she's so busy, she thinks she needs to be informed. And it's like, you're not informed, you're misinformed.
Yeah.
Like, stop watching it and take some time and breathe, and you'll see what's going on. Like, you and I are a lot of like in that we're still Q guys. I think a lot of people who've stepped back from Q. I think
that there's been many things that Q has put out that have actually happened.
I agree.
For instance, pay attention to the news in eastern Michigan early next week. There's a meteorite.
Yeah.
Right? There's been
Hillary
other
Clinton's
things that
fired.
And then the posts in Thailand, why is a Russian being detained in Thailand? It showed the gate, showed all the other stuff, right? And then we find out that there's a Russian that's actually been detained in Thailand who has information on all the pedophiles, high-level pedophiles, right? So there's some things that indicate that Q is somebody within military intelligence or whoever they are. And then there's been other drops by Q that maybe are misleading, right? When they get hacked, they say that Q's been hacked a couple times and a bunch of bullshit's gone out to distract. For me, the jury's still out. I'm not 100% sure, but there's been some stuff that identifies that person as they know exactly what's going on and they're on the inside. And some people think that General Kelly is Q.
A lot of people have been talking about this. He mentioned this video being dropped, and it goes back to something you were talking about this high-level cover-up. Anthony Weiner gets arrested, and he's in jail. Now, we got to understand something. Anthony Weiner, even though he was disgraced, he was very, very high up in politics. There was a thought he was going to run for president. Like, he was juiced in, homeboy. And he gets busted, and now he's going to jail for texting like a 16-year-old girl. Like, texting, and you're throwing this dude in jail. That doesn't make any sense to me if we know what the history is.
And who knows when these politicians get sent to jail, who knows if they're really going to jail?
Oh, I think
This
about
could
that
all
all the time.
Who knows if Jeffrey Epstein really went to jail? Who would know that?
Yeah, and
Who would know that?
where this stuff all comes from, though, is ultimately when you go back to the Awan brothers, the Pakistani IT guys who were hired by Debbie Wasserman Schultz and the
100%.
DNC, and they handed out all the BlackBerries to all the politicians on Capitol Hill, and they had collection points, which is proven, it's documented. They had collection points around D.C. where they would suck up all the information off people's phones. Look, Sam, I know you've got a beautiful wife, for whatever, you're a politician.
Thank you.
These 3 girlfriends of yours are pretty hot, too.
What?
Be amazing if your wife found out about that.
We don't need to do that.
Listen, we have this bill coming up that we're going to need you to vote on, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's being compromised, right?
Exactly.
That's where the whole thing with Mueller doing the investigation on Trump-Russia collusion. From the beginning, that was, okay, he met with
I told
Trump.
my girlfriend what you told me. Her head exploded. She's like, no.
Well, think about it. He met with Trump on becoming the head of the FBI. He'd already served in that capacity for the number of years that were allotted for somebody to serve. The very next day, he is brought in as the special investigator, special prosecutor, right? There's something there people are missing because it's even on Mueller's Wikipedia page. It's a fact. It's all written there that this day and the next day, this is what happened, right? It's a fact. And I go, he's not investigating Trump. He's investigating Russian collusion and he's investigating corruption, but Trump's not
From
the
a
one going to
different
jail,
side,
dude.
yeah.
Trump's not going to jail. And
So
people
you're
just-
saying Mueller, basically, and we've seen Q say this, that Mueller is working with Trump.
I think he doesn't even need to be working with Trump. He's going to indict people who are criminals, who are corrupt. That's all there is to it, because we know from documentation also through WikiLeaks that Mueller brought samples of yellow
he's
cake
dirty,
to Russia.
dude. He's not a
right?
white hat.
Since
He's a
when
black-
does an FBI director carry depleted uranium to an enemy and deliver it? And then we just got the documentation out last week of 15 million kilograms of depleted uranium, yellow cake, being delivered to Russia. It's a document that proves it, right? When do you, in your right mind, think it's okay to sell 15 million kilograms of uranium to your enemy?
And let's not forget about his cover-up of parts of 9/11. There's him testifying that Iraq has weapons of mass destruction. Big cover-ups of the Oklahoma City bombing.
Big cover-ups of the Whitey Bulger stuff. They were using him as informants and his team. And then you go back to, the FBI, and Michelle McPhee in Boston wrote a great book about the Tsarnaev brothers and their connection to the FBI and how the Tsarnaevs were able to travel back and forth. One of the Tsarnaevs didn't even have his passport and was allowed back in.
Yeah.
And Michelle McPhee kind of went off on me when we interviewed her. And I go, listen, there's no way that the FBI didn't know that those guys were about to do what they did.
The hijackers.
And she goes, you're crazy. You are absolutely crazy. I go, wait a minute. I said, hold on a second, Michelle. I said, if everybody in this country is being spied on and surveilled, what makes you think an FBI informant who's part of a terrorist network isn't being surveilled?
Yeah.
They knew exactly what. It was either Keystone Cop retards. Yeah, I said it.
Don't go to
Or-
Denver. You're wanted, bro.
Or some really corrupt shit going on.
What about John Brenner, the chief of this?
Brennan?
Yeah, Brennan. I mean, this guy basically greenlights everything. Now, everybody, we talked about this on the last show, where everybody thought this guy was, you ever see on Reddit, they're like, he's a Muslim. Do you know why they say that? Because he was allowed into Mecca during Ramadan, and you're not allowed to do that unless you're a Muslim. And he was there. He was invited by the Saudis to visit. They get like 1 or 2 people in that are not Muslims allowed to go there. And that's where he's part of the fucking plan to hatch this out, because the whole thing this has been is about taking out Iran, because the Saudis are Sunnis and the Iranians are Shiites, and Israel wants a chunk of Iran as well.
And the thing is, the way I look at it, look, all the people who are the elites, and you'll probably agree with this, I would bet Eddie will, all the elites in these religions.
Don't talk shit on the elites, okay? They're my homeboys.
They're not.
watch
Those
your
people.
mouth.
There's 10th Planet Elite.
Those
They-
people.
they train
Look.
elites.
If anybody thinks the Pope is Christian, you're high. If anybody thinks the leaders of any religion are actually religious, and that you're
100%.
fucking high. 8,000 pedophile priests protected by the Catholic Church. Look, the only reason, and I tell people this. My two oldest brothers, who were amazing individuals, they lived on the edge their whole lives. Later on, I found out my two oldest brothers, one was a pilot in the Air Force. The other one was a millionaire by the time he was 23, 24 years old.
Wow.
With a cable contracting company in Texas. That guy was, they lived on the edge. My brother Bill was a madman. They were raped by Catholic priests when they were kids. They were 10 years and 9 years older than me. So I was rescued from that. My family left the Catholic Church when I was a kid. And my parents both started drinking like fish and split up. It destroyed my family because of that.
Are
right?
you still Catholic? Do you have any
No,
faith?
fuck no. I believe Jesus was who he said he was, but I also believe in, Buddha. David's really deep into that.
That's cool.
I believe there were philosophers. I believe there were people who were connected to deity. I believe in deity.
Yeah, the reason I ask is because so much of what we're talking about is belief, and I see that you got the American flag there on your shoulder. How do you still? And I know you have friends in the military. How do you not lose belief in this country being?
I would
the
say
villain?
this. I would say this.
Great question.
And this
Great question.
this will go a little deeper, and it might freak you guys out. I'm a Freemason. I'm a Freemason for a couple reasons. One, Freemasons were responsible for the French and American revolutions. Right. That's where the whole the crown prince and the king and this and that in France and in England. The abuse of the combination of the elites, the crown, and the church, both times, were subjugating the citizens, overtaxing them, abusing them. You were not ordained by God to wear a crown and rule over me. We were all created equal, and that's where all that comes from Freemasonry, right? So that's my belief, and the guys Travis, Boone, and Crockett at the Alamo. When I went to see the Alamo with Michael Savile, my former broadcast partner, who's also a Freemason, we walked into that building and instantly I went, these guys were Masons. I'm telling you, they were Masons. And then we got an 85-year-old guy who gave us the explanation of the whole Alamo, how the battle went down. It was so well presented because I'd seen people go up for degrees, and I've seen 3,000-word lectures out of memory. The G lecture, which is an incredible lecture about, I'll leave it at that. It's incredible, right? But I knew right away. I said to Michael, I go, I'm telling you, Crockett, Boone, Travis, all these guys were they knew they were going to die, and they went, this is on principle, man. We're going to fight. We're going to fight our ass off, and because they stood for something, and they were willing to stand for something because they believed in it, right? They believed in each individual's rights, And then I listened to my wife when she became a U.S. citizen, when you have to do the oath, right? It's the same thing that you have to do when you go up for your degrees in Masonry. The wording is literally identical, dude. So Masons so my belief in this flag, why this country was founded, it was founded on the individual's rights, which is being destroyed every day by the elites. And a lot of people go, the Freemasons are Luciferians, they're this. Dude, I was master of my lodge. There was never any mention in any of our literature of any of that shit. It doesn't exist.
They say at the highest level, when you're 33 degrees, that's when you find out what
Look,
it's all about.
Eddie, you
know
gotta
who Albert
understand.
Pike is?
Yeah, I know exactly who he is.
Have you read?
Yeah, absolutely. I've read it all.
There's his Bible that he wrote in the 1800s.
I've read Morals and Dogma. I've read all
There's
that.
no Luciferianism stuff in there?
See, you have to understand that Lucifer means light.
Yes.
Light. The light is
I
knowledge.
understand that. No, I understand that.
The light is knowledge. But so I don't agree with all of Albert Pike's stuff by any means. I don't. Right? I don't. There's differences.
So he did talk about
and
Lucifer,
I can tell you
right?
that there was a Freemason who contacted me on Facebook. I think that there is a side potentially of Freemasonry that's a little odd, right? But
What degree?
Never-
How close are you to
Illuminati, dude.
the 33?
you don't go any higher than third degree.
What's 33rd degree? mean?
That's when you go through Scottish Rite and York Rite. Right?
That's what they're saying, that when you get into that.
Michael Savile is a 32nd degree, and 33rd is only you can only be given that. You can't earn that.
No, but that's what the conspiracy theory is.
It's all,
Once
all
you get
bullshit. It's all bullshit, dude.
Yeah,
It's
because
all
there's
bullshit.
there's something here, like to your point, right? Like when you asked Pat, which is such a great question about, I know that you are a profoundly patriotic person and you have morals and beliefs, but yet we're etching out this dark, terrible place that's just wrought with suffering and pedophilia and rape and murder, and yet as human beings, we still have to navigate life, right? We have to be happy. We have to find a way to make sense of it, to raise our children, to push the race forward, even in the midst of all of this crazy shit.
Right.
And so how do you speak to that? I mean, I know what I believe in life, because I'm just sitting here and I'm just like, listen to all this, and I've heard you say it and stuff like that. And I don't know where I fall in all this, but I'm just like eyes wide open right now, trying to take it all in.
I would say this,
Because you got kids.
But explain
I
the
have 3
Lucifer
daughters,
part.
dude. I have 3 daughters. I teach my daughters, I'm working on, I want them to know how to operate a karambit knife. I want them to be able to slice someone wide open if they have to protect themselves. I want them to know how to operate weapons if they have to, because eventually they're going to have to be out there in the world on their own. I want them to be the scariest little girls walking the fucking planet. I want them to devour people, know how to choke somebody unconscious, know how to knock people out with elbows, knees, and head kicks.
But yet,
I want them to be wrecking machines. But I explain things to my children of the dangers of the world, of the people that are out there, of the evils out there, and that they have to be well equipped, not only mentally, spiritually, but physically in all of this. And what we're doing here by talking about dark things is exposing, we have to shed light on it.
Sure, absolutely.
For people to absorb it mentally and to come to grips with that it exists and that we have to crush it, right?
But the one thing that I
have to
think we
morally
miss-
do that.
Yeah, I had a friend come up to me, one of my students, and he's kind of, one eye closed and then the other eye's like half open. He's not fully awake.
So he's
There's so
really
many
high.
levels. There's so many levels.
He's retarded.
No, he's just Asian. So, okay. But anyways, he says like, yeah, I hear what you're saying with some of these conspiracy theories, and I'm open to it. But as soon as Alex Jones starts talking about the world is run by satanic pedophiles, that kind of shit, that just loses me. I'm like, okay, I can't listen to any of that. So a guy like that and a guy like you guys can't talk about, that's the craziest shit. And that was why a lot of the conspiracy theorists, that's one of the reasons a lot of conspiracy theorists think Alex Jones is a shill. Because as soon as he starts talking, he says 90% of the shit he says is right on, but then he starts talking about the satanic pedophiles run the world.
To discredit things on purpose, almost.
Yeah, but that's fucking true.
No,
David Icke, same thing. People are talking about David Icke. They knock him for the reptilian shit, and they also knocked him for he was saying that the royal family were all pedophiles, and it's a bloodline of pedophiles. He was saying that, so that's where they lose people. But now, with the Hampstead conspiracy, the Jimmy Savile conspiracy of silence, the Franklin
All the groomings
cover-up.
of thousands of girls.
Yeah,
all the
and then
other
you
stuff.
see there's videos you could watch on YouTube of actual security camera footage of in Asia where people are kidnapping other kids. They're like dudes driving around a motorcycle. There's a guy sitting behind. They grab a kid, boom, and they're gone. The kid's never to be seen again. Mother's chasing them. There's compilations of that shit. You know what I mean? So anyways, and then he goes, you know what? The percentage of pedophiles in society, it's like they say 10% of the people are gay, but it's got to be like less than 1 are pedophiles. You're saying that everybody in power is a pedophile? Like that doesn't even make any sense. The odds of but then when you go back and you listen to the whistleblowers like Kay Griggs, you could look up on YouTube, Kay Griggs, wife of the Illuminati. She was married to a dude who was deep. His name was George Griggs, Joint Chiefs of Staffs, came up as a CIA assassin. He would get drunk and he would tell her exactly how he was raised. So this woman who was part of the State Department, she was in it too. She's for 8 hours, she's on YouTube, 8 hours, just telling you how everything is run. She says, and this makes sense. It makes sense.
They've all been compromised, so they have to do.
Well, there's some of that. There's some of that. Hold on. There's some of that. But what she's saying is, since the dawn of time, emperors, rulers of empires would take orphans and a whole group of kids, as many kids as they can, and raise them to be assassins for them. And what they would do is, if you're going to raise them as an assassin, you gotta trust them. So you gotta fucking break them. And this is what she's saying. They do it all the time. Like everybody in position of power has been brought up through this child sex trafficking satanic rituals
Yeah,
where
I
they
don't know
break
what
them.
the percentage of that is, but we know that there's a lot of it.
But this is, I don't know. I'm just repeating what whistleblowers are saying.
Right.
And if you were a ruler, a psychopathic ruler, that's a good idea, right? If I said, you know what?
To keep power.
Let's get as many kids, bring them up as kids, and break the shit out of them. And by the time they're 18, we got some fucking super soldiers. right? And then if this person is talented in like as a singer, damn, let's blow him up as a singer. If this guy's talented in whatever area, that would be the smart thing to do as a psychotic ruler, right? It's taking the kids.
Well, that's the MK Ultra.
So yeah,
type thing.
exactly.
Project
exactly.
Monarch.
So Kay Griggs, exactly. So Kay Griggs is saying everybody in power has been brought up through this. That's why they're into kids, because they were abused. And what they do is they make
The cycle
continues. Yeah, it's the
continues.
cycle. That's why. So it makes sense. Like, what are the odds that all these people in power are all pedophiles? When you look at how they were brought up, if Kay Griggs is correct, if she's not, if she's lying, they're dropping the ball, these psychotic fucking rulers.
Right.
That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to take the orphans and kids, raise them, and you got fucking brainwashed soldiers. That would be the smart thing to do as a psychotic emperor. Right?
Just let me do this real quick because I want to get to your video. I agree with you.
Yeah.
My only thing on that, and I'll let Pat say as we set your videos up, is that, the Illuminati, when the guy who started the Illuminati got hit by lightning, his whole thing was to bring light to the masses. That's what Illuminati is, to illuminate, And what happens over time is like some dark forces get involved. And, if you're going to have alphas, man, there's always going to be somebody who wants to run the roost and I don't care how high it is or where you are. That's just the nature of the business, is the wiring. So I'll let you real quick just comment on his thing with the highest levels if you want to. But I also want to get into Eddie wants to you kind of brought it up on Joe Rogan yesterday about the flat earth and all that stuff. And
we can go to that. I've never had it explained to me in any way, shape, or form. And I'll just say, we've all been on planes high enough, going to Asia or wherever, flying over the, near the Arctic Circle and things like that, and seeing the curve of the Earth. And, I just find it very difficult to understand how a guy who's run more miles than all of us combined ever will, who's run over 100 ultras. He's done Badwater in Death Valley for 135 miles at 131
I'm pretty sure
degrees.
I ran off the edge.
He
of
would
the
have
earth
run
in
off the fucking edge
2015.
by now.
You have to, as far as being able to see the curvature of the Earth at 35,000 feet, like your average airline, you're talking about that. Well, Neil deGrasse Tyson was asked why these amateur balloons going up at 100,000 feet, amateur balloons with cameras, does the Earth appear to be flat? There's no curvature at 100,000 feet. And Neil deGrasse Tyson will tell you, he's the authority on astrophysics, right? He'll tell you, at 100,000 feet, we're still too low to see any curvature. The Earth is so big that even at 100,000 feet, you can't see curvature. That was Neil deGrasse Tyson's answer to why there's no curve at 100,000 feet. So when people say they see curvature at 35,000 feet, what they're seeing is the window at the edges, there's curves.
Yeah, but wouldn't Neil deGrasse Tyson also be one of the first people to say? Wouldn't Neil deGrasse Tyson also follow that up with saying unequivocally the Earth is round, though?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So they're like pulling that one thing out of there, but that's
no,
not.
but what I'm saying is
And Neil deGrasse
I don't
Tyson,
believe shit he says.
Have you seen the surveillance video from the guy that just passed away? I can't remember.
Stephen Hawking.
Stephen Hawking's wheelchair camera took what?
And has anybody actually seen Gary Busey since Stephen Hawking passed away? Because I don't know, man.
Dude,
there's a
But there's
conspiracy theory
Neil
right there.
deGrasse
Those two
Tyson
guys
with
are
a
the
knife
same.
in front of him.
Stephen Hawking has had ALS he's the world's record holder for dudes with ALS. 50 years, the average person dies with ALS between 2 to 5 years. He lived 50 fucking years, and when he died, they still use that speak and spell voice. Why did they still use that speak and spell voice? Anyways,
here are the videos.
Before we get to that, you gotta understand that. Let me tell you my story first. When I've always been a conspiracy theorist. I don't trust shit.
Right.
But there's so many levels and there's so many different. There's the 9/11. There's JFK. There's the Gulf of Tonkin. There's all that shit, right? You got to understand that. First of all, the first time I heard of flat Earth being around, like today, was probably about 2 years ago on Joe Rogan's podcast. He was trying to make a point at how dumb people are, and he said, "Listen, dude, there's still people today that believe the Earth is flat, and you could watch this on video." I go, "What? What are they, Amish or something?" I go, people still believe the Earth is flat. It's fucking ridiculous. This was a couple years ago. I'm like in my 40s, right? A grown ass man, and then the podcast. An appearance later, he brought it up again. He goes, "Yeah, dude, remember, there's people that fucking think the fucking sun is 3,000 miles away." I'm like, "What?" And he goes, "And the Earth is flat." I go, "Fuck." I thought, oh, for sure, that's a CIA psyop. That's a distraction to get people away from the real conspiracies. That's what I thought. That's what everybody thinks when they first hear of it. Everybody thinks this. Nobody hears.
It's muddying the waters.
And nobody. That's what everybody thinks. So, anyways, then maybe 6 months later, a year later, I'm talking conspiracy theories, 9/11 type shit or whatever, chemtrails or whatever, at school. And one of my buddies, Manny, goes, "Hey, you ever look into flat Earth?" And I looked at him like, "You dumb motherfucker." Like, I felt like I lost a soldier because Manny was he's a super conspiracy theorist. And I go, "Dude, please don't ever fucking break." He broke my heart.
Fucking Manny.
Fredo.
Are you super religious or something? What's wrong with you? And he goes, "You got to look into it, man." I'm like, "What the fuck are you talking about?"
So you started
Another one of my students later goes, "Hey, man," his name's Ernest. He goes, "Hey, you ever look into flat Earth?" I go, "Fuck, not another fucking moron."
Well,
Oh
see,
my
all
God.
your students are high too, so it's all fucked up in there.
No. So, anyways, so he looked at me. I'm like, and I said, "Dude, that is the dumbest shit you could ever say." And he said, "Listen, I got a master's in engineering. Look into it." And I'm like, pfft. So we started getting in debate. I'm like, "Dude, I seen on my iPhone the picture of the fucking Earth on my iPhone every day. It was the default setting on iPhone. It was
Right.
the default setting.
Yeah.
It was. I saw it every day. I never even bothered to put my own picture in there. It was the picture of the Earth from fucking space. It's round. It's a ball. The fuck are you talking about, right? So then we get in an argument, and I go home. I'm like, and then we're texting, and like, "Dude, what the fuck are you, dude? You're really disappointing me, right?" So I get on, and at this point, I already believed that the moon missions were faked. At this point, I already had zero trust in NASA. I thought at that point that NASA was in charge of the moon missions and like space shuttle. That's it. Like that was NASA. I didn't know what NASA really was. I didn't know that they were in charge of all space information since 1958 when they were formed by Nazis, by Werner von Braun. He was the head.
Yeah.
So I knew we didn't go to the moon, but I didn't think that had anything to do with the Earth being round or flat or whatever. I had no idea. So as I'm trying to prove to him, I'm like, I'm just going to punch in on Google, picture of Earth from space, and then send it to his ass. And as soon as that came up, saw a lot of pictures, and I thought, well, these kind of look like a little cartoonish. Then I started hitting links and like flat Earth links and all this stuff. I'm like, what? And then really quick, I started following these pictures to the NASA.gov website. I'm like, NASA is putting out these pics, the guys that faked the moon mission? Like, oh no, there's a problem here. So then when you look at NASA.gov and they tell you they're CGI pictures. They tell you they're composites. And then they said, yeah, you know what? Because we do have one real picture, but all the rest of them are taken from strips of data that we put together, and we get a fucking artist to get their rendition based on these strips of data from these satellites, right? And I'm thinking, oh no, we got a fucking problem here.
And there we were napping with a family of rabbits.
So
far down.
Anyways, once I look into the time, like when was NASA created? Like 1959. I'm like, dude, all our space information is coming from fucking NASA, which is a Nazi propaganda machine. Mm-hmm. Werner von Braun was the director of all 6 moon missions, and he's a fucking Nazi. Is that not a comic book? That's a fucking comic book.
Here's the thing, Eddie. We got to wrap
Come on,
it
that's
up.
like Batman and shit.
So we got to.
You need to volunteer for the Mars missions, dude.
Dude, I'm telling you, bro. I
And
love
you're
it.
gonna
This
report
is all
back.
love.
Yeah.
We need to pick a video.
Do you believe we went to the moon?
I do.
Okay, then there's no way you're gonna believe in flat Earth. So if
Do I
Is there a
believe
video
that
you
Hollywood
watch?
could fake something like that? Of course. Of course.
so think about all all the shit the government has done.
Oh,
And all
there's-
the shit-
I question everything for
think
the
about,
most
Think
part.
about all the lies, the media, all
Oh,
the shit.
yeah,
on Trump.
absolutely.
Think about all the lies, every conspiracy. Think about all that shit, and then think about.
But everything's not a lie to me.
No.
Right.
I know. Okay, let's equate. Think about all the stuff. Look, think about all this. We're not in a hurry, are we?
Yeah, we do.
We have to
They have
leave?
another.
This is garbage. No,
What time?
are they going to kick Eddie
What
and I out of the
What time?
studio?
Well, real quick. What do I have? What do I have? 5 minutes?
You're trying to shut us down.
How long do I have? 5
We
minutes?
own
2
this.
minutes.
We
2
own
minutes.
this
Listen.
studio.
Just think
I
about
could
this.
take you
Think about
guys.
this.
Come on,
Think
man.
about all
Let
the
me-
lies.
Let me get a shot at you too.
Think
right?
about
You
all
got
the lies.
hair,
Hair,
on
man.
one.
You got
Let's
a lot
do
of
this.
hairs.
Think about all the lies, and then think about all the lies in science. Think about. I believe that in the science of an iPhone. You know why? Because I don't have to read a report that says the iPhones work. I don't have to read a report. I know iPhones work, so I believe in the science. I believe in the science of cars. When I don't have to read somewhere a science team it says the cars actually roll and they work and they turn on. I know that for myself, so I believe in that science. I believe in science of skyscrapers because I see them. People are in there. It's not collapsing. I believe in that science.
Now,
but
why don't you-
but
But
think
they're-
about,
but they're
think about,
not
no,
real.
hold
They're
on.
not
Think
real.
about, hold on. Think about the science that's been bullshit.
gotta listen to
Think
this.
about that.
Hold on,
Hold on. Let me fucking finish. Think about.
We got 7 minutes.
Think about the science that is bullshit.
Here we go.
But none of that stuff exists. None of
What?
that stuff you mentioned exists.
What do you mean nothing exists?
None of that stuff exists. Nothing that we know that we hold to be true exists.
In sense
Not
of
planets,
what?
not cars, not skyscrapers, not mountains, not oceans. None of it exists.
What is this? A
All of those-
Explain.
I believe
all of-
you. I don't know why, but I do.
All of those,
explain.
all of those things are spinning particles, strong and weak nuclear forces, electromagnetivity, that's representing itself in your brain is
I
real.
get it.
But without a human nervous system, none of those things are
I
real.
get- no, I
so
get
you
that.
can't trust your eyes.
I get that.
You're living in a universe
No,
that you are
I
creating
get-
as we
you
sit
can't
here.
trust shit. I understand that. But think about, I believe in
trust me.
science. I believe in science that I can prove for myself. But think about
Science
all the
doesn't
bullshit.
believe in
Tobacco science. Bullshit, right? Tobacco science. Bullshit. Marijuana science. Remember all that marijuana science? Sugar science. What about, remember all the lies in sugar science?
Right.
So think about the science, the vaccine lies. Think about all the lies there.
absolutely.
Vaccine lies, marijuana lies for decades, tobacco lies, tobacco science, sugar science. So we know, okay, now, before we believe in science, we need some real proof. We can't take anybody's word for science unless we can prove it ourselves. You're not going to go to jail if you don't believe we went to the
But
moon.
yet-
You're not going to get a big tax break if you believe we went to the moon. So there's no reason. If they said we're going to go to the moon, you're going to go to jail if you don't believe in the moon landings. I go, we went to the fucking moon.
But
if
yet-
they said we're going to give you a $2,000 refund every year if you sign something that says we went to the moon, I'm like, we went to the fucking moon. We
But
went
yet-
to the moon.
but yet
you don't
real
get any of that
science-
shit.
But yet real science, accurate science, doesn't believe in science either.
I believe that.
When you're actually engaged in the scientific process, you take nothing for granted. You don't try to prove anything. You're just merely on a quest. You're seeking to be awake to what is out there. So whenever someone starts banging really loudly and posturing, that's a really good time to not listen.
This has got to be a part two, guys.
Hey, listen, I'd rather be thought of as an idiot for not trusting the government than a
Nobody thinks you're
traitor
an
for
idiot.
defending them. Remember that shit. It's better to be
Right.
thought as an idiot for. People think I'm an idiot for not
Nobody
trusting the
thinks
government.
you're an
No,
idiot.
Well, a
no.
lie is a lie,
Trust-
whether
I would
Trust
never
me.
think you're an idiot.
I didn't say you thought I was an idiot. I'm just saying
I don't think
people
you're an
out
idiot.
there,
I don't think
people
you're an
think I would rather be thought as a moron for not trusting criminals than a fucking sellout and a traitor for defending them.
The reality
The
is-
things that come out of your mouth, are you saying something that a defense attorney would say, or are you saying something that a prosecuting attorney would say? When it comes to the government, that criminal, that's like John Gotti. I'm saying shit that a prosecuting attorney would say, not saying shit like, "We'll prove it. We'll prove it." It's a criminal.
No.
They need to prove. You
I
need
agree.
to prove without a doubt. Whatever's coming from the government, I need some I need the kind of fucking evidence that would just shut down a case. If I don't see the evidence, why would I believe it? For what? What benefit do I get in believing we went to the moon? What benefit? Is it going to benefit me? Dude, you've been fucking fooled. Everyone's been fooled. Think about all the lies. The lies go deep. You know what people think, like, oh, flat earth and the moon landing, that's a distraction from the real conspiracy theories? That's what I used to think. You know what I think? I think those conspiracy theories, the mainstream conspiracies, are a distraction for the real conspiracy, where we're on,
Let's
what
leave it
we're
there.
on. They're trying to keep God from us. They're trying to keep the creator from us. They're making us insignificant when this is a special fucking place, Ron. Who knows what shape it is? But you know what? Water doesn't fucking curve. Water doesn't curve. Water stays level. Water is level. Water doesn't curve. So you're telling me gravity is strong enough to hold oceans onto it, battling inertia from the spin, so gravity's holding oceans, inertia's trying to pull it out and make it fling. Skyscrapers would fling off the earth from inertia, but this gravity's holding these. It's so strong, it's holding these, but it can't hold a fucking helium balloon. Helium balloon goes up. The conspiracy theory about gravity, and I'm not making this up, is that it isn't gravity what holds things down, it's density that holds things down. Because if gravity, the reason why a helium balloon rises is because it's lighter than the air around it. Why does a rock go down to the bottom of the ocean, but a tennis ball doesn't? Because the air is not as dense as the water. Things that are less dense go up. Things that are more dense go down. Has nothing to do with gravity. Where's gravity at with butterflies? You would think that if the gravity's so strong it's holding fucking skyscrapers down to it, that everything, we would be flat. We would be flat on the ground. It doesn't, but that doesn't make any sense.
I'm just going to say one weird thing. The moon is a very interesting thing. Have you ever looked into the moon? We did a whole episode on the moon. It stays perfect in its rotation.
And you only see one face.
And it's
the front face.
It's
it never
bigger than
spins.
Pluto. And it should not be able to stay in our gravitational force. I gotta say, look into it. I would love to show the videos. We got another thing coming in.
No, we're good.
I had a great time. I
Hey,
love that you
Sam,
came.
thank you.
I'm a huge fucking fan, and I'm honored that you even came.
Awesome.
on.
You know,
It's a
anybody,
pleasure to meet you.
listen, there's a lot of disinformation out there on Flat Earth. That's another thing. There's disinfo.
You got it
agents.
going, man. You got it going.
Listen,
We can do a whole one
listen
next time you're in,
Just
dude.
listen. Go to YouTube and look up Eric Dubé. That's the only guy you need to listen to. Don't listen to anybody else. Just Eric Dubé. That's all you need. He'll break it down for you.
Go hear Eddie Bravo June 1st at Cobb's and June 2nd at the Sacramento
Both of
Punchline.
us.
Me and my homeboy Eddie Bravo.
Tinfoil comedy
Honored
night.
that you were on the show.
Thank you, Sam.
Ryan, you were awesome. Dave, your podcast, We Are All Superman.
We are Superman.
We Are Superman. Check it out. You guys are great. We'll see you on Monday. Should be great. What a great show this was.
5-star reviews, guys.
5-star reviews. Take care, everybody. Bye.
Sorry, guys. When I had 5 minutes, I'm like, I was ready to go the fuck up. Like Coriolis effect. I got videos where the sniper's going, we don't